want everybody else to know that Sam does not like books. She's not a book reader. She hates books. She's a liar.
Hey, thank you for joining the Escape With Me Book Club. Escape with me, Sam Reiner.
And me, Danielle.
Into our most recent read. Come with us as we evade reality and go into detail about a new book. We'll be covering the book from beginning to end, so there will be spoilers. Today we're going to Lost Cove, California. Published September 16th, 2014, I'll Give You the Sun is the award-winning second novel by Jandy Nelson. Noah and Jude's lives were changed forever when their mom died, fracturing every relationship they had, including their own. While Noah is stuck in the past, and Jude is merely keeping her head down to keep going, what will happen when both of their timelines finally cross and all the truths that have been in hiding come out? So this was a you pick.
I love this book.
I need to start off with this.
Obviously, because it was my pick. And you usually hate most of mine. So I actually felt kind of optimistic about this when I suggested it.
Hey, you're like 0.5 off from mine. I'm 3 for 4, and you're like 2.5 out of 4, including this book, because this book gets a 0.5. We were almost tied. It's very close. I don't hate all of them. You still got a majority.
My problem is I'm an unreliable narrator, and if you tell me you like it, then I like it most of the time. Not that stupid one with the bugs that we read, but most of the other books. I'm like, cool, you like this? There must be some merit to it.
And I'm over here, and I don't think anything has merit, apparently. Okay, so how'd you hear about this book?
So I actually took an adolescent child literature class, and this was just on the reading log in 2016. Didn't it come out that year?
It came out in 2014, but it's definitely around when it started getting awards and recognition and stuff.
Okay, so it was fresh, kind of newish book. I had literally never heard of it and probably might not have ever come across it, except for maybe Book Talk, but they don't seem to like this book. They like stupid books.
I mean, I would say if they recommended this book, it would be about right.
I love it. You cannot be a hater.
You and your modernist light books.
You gave it like 3 or 4 stars, didn't you?
I think I gave it 3 stars. I'd have to go back and look.
This is a 5-star book, guys. Don't listen to Sam.
Why do people keep giving me their favorite book when they know it's not going to go well?
I know. I'm going to pick a trash book next time. You're going to be like, wow, this is the best literature ever written. And I'm going to be like, this was so bad.
I mean, technically, you have already given me a trash book, but you liked that book, so...
Was it Miracles?
Yes.
You did not like that one at all. I like that Purple Prose. What can I say? It's so nice.
You really do. Yeah, I gave this one 3 stars.
For shame.
I mean, it got a -1 because of the ending of a certain relationship. So
I'll give you at least 1 star. This is at least a 4-star book.
So age level, this is young adult, though it has kind of a long content warning for a young adult. It's a dark young adult. Because we have language, death of a parent, child nudity, pedophilia, rape, suicide, sexual assault, LGBT issues such as being bullying, being outed, wrestling with orientation, and closeted romance. All the things. Judge a book by its cover. Okay, I looked at the cover, and it's just lines, multicolored lines that vaguely look like sun rays. And I looked at it, and I immediately knew this was probably one of Danielle's light modernist dystopia books full of purple prose and bad science.
And you were right. Oh, look at you knowing me. So cute.
Except we don't have a dystopia or bad science. So hey!
I think I'm too dumb for anytime there's books with art in it and they're describing it. Because I'm like, I can't picture that. Both of the main characters, mostly Noah, the boy, twin, think very visually. And I don't know. I think I'm just impressed. I think that's also a tiny part of why I like this book.
Art?
Yeah. Like, it's very, like, visual. And then it, like, makes me think. Like, I'm trying to, like, make the art.
I mean, the book made me think many thoughts, but they weren't good thoughts.
Hater.
So, yeah, no, I want to just change the title to I'll Give You an Advil.
Oh, nice.
But come on, sometimes I'm just tired. Mainly because of Jude. Little bits of Noah, mainly Jude. And that is why you get a 0.5 for this book. I liked Noah's perspectives. I didn't like Jude.
That actually was how I felt this time. I've read this, I think this was my 4th or 5th time either reading or doing the audiobook of it. I do it about every 2 years. And usually I side with Jude. I like her perspective more. She's a little bit more real. She's got so much pent-up anger that she needs to work through. And for whatever reason, this time around, I really bonded with Noah. Jude needed her mom to be around more because she definitely needed a lot of guidance and is kind of like a terrible teenager. Noah is this sweet little innocent 13-year-old coming out of the closet, learning who he is, and Jude is like, I'm mad. I'm gonna break stuff, but oh no, it's not me. It's my dead mom. It's a ghost.
Both her perspective. I get it. Stop making terrible life decisions. I don't care about your grandma's Bible. I hate it. Every time she's like, oh, I'm going to have an onion in my pocket because this random passage written in this stupid book that doesn't mean anything. It's just trying to give her something quirky because Noah has a quirky tick, but Noah's quirky tick makes sense. He is an artist. He has a lot of art thoughts. That makes sense. I don't get what Jude's thing is.
I hate that we don't know the grandmother at all because at the beginning, even in Noah's perspective, the grandma's dead. She's a ghost character. I mean, she's not really a ghost. Like the mom and Jude pretend that they see her or feel her or talk to her and all of that, like ghosty things. But we never fully know the grandma, and we only mostly feel and see her from Jude. And I don't know, was she that crazy woman who actually truly believed all of the things, or is that Jude projecting this weird persona? Yeah, she had a quirky Bible, but was she as weird as Jude makes her seem she was?
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of times the grandma ghost is just there to be like, yeah, Jude, give in to your terrible ideas. And I'm just like, is the woman insanely irresponsible, or are you just looking for permission from someone and you know you're not going to get anyone in the real world?
I always thought about that because the mom you know for a little while. She's a character. So when she dies, you feel that loss and you feel that difference and you kind of actually think what she would be saying. Not that she talks, but she's an angry ghost.
Yeah, it's much bigger when the mom dies because especially when they say stuff about her like, oh, mom would think this or mom would think that. Like you get her motivation so you can kind of get a feel for, okay, they're just telling themselves that, or yeah, you're probably right. But with the grandma, yeah, it's just like, oh yeah, she just died and Jude's really upset because there's one less person on this earth to worship her. I really dislike Jude, and I get it. What is she, 17 in her perspective and 13 in Noah's?
I think they're 13 and 16.
Yeah, you are right. They're 13 and 16. And it's just manipulative crap that she does, and I hate it. She is the golden child of dad, of grandma, and it seems of mom for a time until mom is like, oh no, you're actually really good at art. And then she makes a huge deal about how Noah's stealing mom from her, and then plays this game where it's like, Noah, if mom was hanging off a cliff and I was, who would you pick? Basically, like, who would you let die? And he's like, I would pick you, Jude. And she's basically like, that's right. I hate it. She's such a little golden child, and it makes me so angry that Jude's like, just want to remind you that I am the center of the universe. Thank you.
She has her moments. She does certain things, or like there are a couple scenes where even with me not really vibing with her this time around, I still am like empathetic. She has some trauma happen to her on top of not having a mom to talk to.
Yeah, and there's also points of, hey, the golden child is also abused, but I just can't.
As quirky as they try to be, I do feel like these are more of real people. Like, yeah, they're ridiculous because it's YA, so they all have to be, I don't know, manic pixie dream girls.
A little bit.
Just a little bit. So Jude does suffer from that a tiny bit as well. Like, she's unreachable. She's untouchable. She's so cool.
It's almost not like other girls, but not quite, but definitely from that vein.
Yeah, but she's not trying to not be, but also trying way too hard to not be like other girls. She's a mess.
Yes.
I love Noah.
So the book starts off, and from the beginning, as soon as we met the parents are bickering and whatever, and immediately I was like, they're incompatible at this point. Mainly because he's a wet blanket, and she's trying really hard. But because it's YA, so logic, mom felt more like she was going to have an affair because she's so built up in the kids' minds, because it's always the one they idolize. Just like in Age of Miracles, miracles. I knew it was going to be the dad because she was like, oh my gosh, dad is amazing and mom is terrible. So of course he has the affair. And this time Noah's like, oh, mom's so amazing and dad just doesn't get me. And I was like, okay, mom's having an affair.
Yeah, you can kind of tell from the first scene, which might be the actual first scene of the book, but they're having dinner.
Second, because he gets attacked by bullies first.
Oh, yeah, okay, second scene, whatever. But the mom is talking to the grandma ghost, and Jude is so wrapped up in it, and Noah is so captivated by the story, and the dad is like, those aren't real, shut up, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, you are a science brain for sure, and she is a free-thinking, loving love.
Hippie.
Yeah. Anybody who believes in ghosts that much, which I do think ghosts are real, but like the way that the mom did talk about ghosts is different than, oh, I believe ghosts are real and can haunt you or can give you a feeling and talk to you.
Yeah, because she was like, oh, she informed me something or some such. I don't even remember, but it wasn't very believable. It kind of felt more like she was trying to comfort Jude, because I'm pretty sure it happened in the car. She's like, oh, Jude, I got this message. And dad's just like, ghosts aren't real. And it's like, dude, she was at least trying here. Let her have this.
But how many conversations did they have where the mom was being ridiculous and the dad was letting her be? And then, because this is just the first one we see.
Yeah, no, I can see it from both sides. Like I said, it's just incompatibility.
Oh, yeah.
And apparently at one point they were much more aligned, but something has changed and it's just not working. And it's not even like opposites attract thing. They are actively detracting each other. No love lost. So mom decides they need to go to art school and she's like, hey, let's do a contest, which is always a terrible idea, but especially when they're twins and highly competitive as these two apparently are, mainly Jude rolls eyes. But
anytime you do a competition between siblings, you know that you're setting it up for something.
Yeah, and what is it like? Oh, you should have kids X years apart to lessen the sibling rivalry, because if it's like 2 years, especially if they're same gender, 2 years or less, the sibling rivalry is hot. And these two are twins. That is very close. But anyway, and I'll give her this. This is not great. First of all, Noah wins the contest pretty obviously because she looks through Noah's art and then doesn't even look at Jude's, which is rude.
Just pretend. You're the same. You're not.
Yeah, but if she said that, that would be so rude to Noah. It just shouldn't have happened as a contest, period. That was such a bad idea going into this. And then they leave her at the museum. Not great, Mom.
They were just so wrapped up in each other, talking to each other, that they literally forgot that Jude had even come with them.
That's pretty bad. But like I said, it's followed with that scene later on where she's like, oh, if Mom and I were hanging off a cliff, who would you save? That's not weirdly territorial and manipulative.
Well, and the fact that that's a game that they continuously play throughout the book.
And it's always X and Jude. It's never two other people. It's always, I'm the most important thing, right? It's so creepy.
There was at least one that was between Mom and Dad, because I remember it, because it was like, oh yeah, obviously we would both save Mom. Single one thrown in there.
Yeah. And that's when it was like, oh, what are we gonna do when they divorce? Because it was pretty obviously that's where it was headed. Anyway, there's so many things about Jude where I just feel like we're trying to make quirky people. I love quirky characters. I hate when authors want to create quirky characters, because that's what I feel like she tries to do, where it's like, oh, she goes to art school, CSA. There's 16-year-olds with entire tattoo sleeves. Like, that's not illegal. And none of the teachers care. None of their parents care. They're just so cool with their hats and their tattoos, considering it's illegal in California since 1955. I looked it up because I was like, am I just being a stickler about this? No, it's been illegal since 1955 in California for anyone under 18 to have a tattoo. Why are teachers doing nothing?
I think because I knew a couple people in high school that their cousin gave them a tattoo type thing.
But these are entire sleeves. This is not back alley tramp stamps or whatever. This is sleeve tattoos. Do you know how long that takes? It takes multiple sessions.
You always get hung up on the funny thing.
But also, it's a terrible idea, because even if you were 16 and it was legal, it's a terrible idea because when you grow, you're gonna get gaps. You're not done growing yet, especially the guys. It's so dumb. You're just asking gaps for your tattoos, and yeah, you can fix them, but I've seen some and they look weird, and you should have waited. Also, where did you get the money for this? That costs so much money. Anyway, I got very hung up on the tattoos. And so so many piercings. Also, other stuff, everything to do with Jude. Okay, here's the other thing. There's a huge amount of David talk, the sculpture. It's a very important symbol in this book for some reason. And I feel like the author doesn't know much about it because the advisor has a, quote, life-size print of David on his wall. So does she not know what life size means? Or does this man have a 17-foot tall office?
See, my brain instantly was like, oh, it's the same size as him, like a door. His life size, the teacher.
That's not what it means.
I mean, I know, but that's how I read it.
Why were you the English major? It's little details like that, where I'm just like, David is 17 foot tall. And I know that because I found out about that way too late in life. And I was like, holy crap. Everything that I've ever seen makes it seem so tiny. And no, it is 17 feet tall. That's awesome. And I feel like more people should appreciate that. This dude just out here carving 17-foot tall, amazing marble statues. His head is the size of a normal person. Anyway, but it's little details like that where I'm like, I don't know. It's my equivalent to bad science, bad research.
Yeah, some of it's bad art.
Bad art history.
Yes.
Anyway, she's been doing pottery and it all turns to crap and they all keep breaking and all the stuff she makes is crap. And so her advisor's like, so we're going to kick you out of school if you don't figure out what you're doing with your life. Well, that's encouraging.
But to be fair, she sucks.
She really does.
They should not have let her come in or stay.
Especially since her application was like, hey, I want to do fashion. And okay, yeah, eventually you find out, not surprising to anyone who read this book, but you find out there are pictures of these sand sculptures that she makes.
But how good were the sand sculptures that they're like, no, this weird fashion kid needs to be at my school?
But also, if her talent is sand, why did you put her in pottery?
It's not the same medium at all.
I don't think you have a sand sculptor teacher. I feel like the best next thing is drawing? Maybe she sucks at drawing. I don't know. But it was just weird.
Fashion sketches, so those had to at least be decent. But she's not in the sketching class either. She's basically just in this one.
She's just in pottery. It was just weird. How did we go from sand sculptors to pottery and then being mad that she's not good at pottery?
Yeah.
Then she's like, hey, I know I suck at pottery, which is very malleable and much more forgiving, but I want to do marble. And they just let that happen.
It takes a lot of work because they don't have a marble teacher.
They're on vacation.
Yeah.
And so they reach out to this famous artist that used to take on students, but is retired and is like, hey, this is our only choice. But they don't actually reach out to him. Kind of do. They call him and leave a message. But then Jude's like, I'm going to become obsessed with this man.
Oh, Igor.
Igor's great. I love him. That's not his actual name. That's just the name Jude gives him.
Yeah. So it's Guillermo, and then they call him G, and also Igor, because he's kind of giant and a little bit ugly.
Yeah. Guillermo Garcia. I end up calling him Garcia a lot in my notes just because that's the easiest to spell.
Yeah, Guillermo is difficult.
It takes a little bit of thinking with my dyslexic brain. So that's the plot of Jude's. She has to create a marble sculpture so her mom can't smash it, even though you can totally smash marble too. The things that were happening to the pottery, like they were falling over and tables were breaking. That would also break marble.
Yeah, I think the teacher just was trying to pawn her off on somebody else.
I don't understand Jude's thought process there. Anyway, yeah, she's got into the school because of the sand sculptures, and she's like, oh, I don't know how I got those pictures in there. I'm so confused. How did they get into my application? And I'm like, Jude, you're an idiot. Do you really think they entered you for fashion? Like, they were like, oh, I really see what you're doing with fashion, but we don't have a fashion teacher, so let's just put you in pottery. Like, did she just let that stand? I don't know. Anyway, 100% at that point, I was expecting that the mom did it and saw it and took pictures and submitted it to art school, because her whole thing is, I'm not worthy of art school, and that's why mom's mad at me because Jude is the worst and didn't mail his packet. Thanks, Jude.
Ugh, if she felt guilty enough, because she had a spot for 2 years.
Yep.
Because there's a 3-year gap. But she felt so guilty about it, and she thinks her mom is trying to ruin her life and ruin all her pottery. And instead of being like, you know what, my brother is a talented artist, he deserves deserves this, try to push for him to get the class spot. She's like, no, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to do whatever I want and not talk to my brother. And which Noah's having a little identity crisis at this moment. But
yeah, honestly, I do get it. She's in this whole I don't deserve anything. But that just made me confused why, even if she wasn't going to be like, oh, Noah deserves this instead of me, which she gets to at the end. But why did she stay at the art school? She could have just dropped out and gone to high school. I'm a little confused on that. I'm not going to claim to understand a grieving 16-year-old, though. It makes terrible life choices.
I think some of it, she was trying to prove to her mom, her dead mom, that she could do it. She could be everything that her mom wanted her to be. But her mom really, I mean, she cared about art, but she really only wanted Jude not to be that girl, in air quotes, because she was like dressing in skimpy outfits and hanging out with boys all the time at 13 years old.
Which, that's not what she meant. And that's the problem, is she just kind of went to slut shaming instead of being like, hey,
I'm worried about you and these older guys you're hanging out with.
Yeah. The issue was a lot of other things. It wasn't just like, hey, you're not wearing the right clothes, which is what she focused on and so many parents focus on, and that's not the real issue. And if you harp on the wrong thing, the kid's not going to understand. We'll keep doing the thing. And anyway. But also at the end, Jude's like, I need to be that girl.
Yeah, she realized that girl instead was more needing to take on the world, and
she reconstrues what her 13-year-old self was, because that is definitely not what her 13-year-old self was. But she decides that something was missing, and she takes the moniker of that girl. Okay, people do that all the time, but
yeah. Well, and also that's definitely not what her mom was saying, because her mom told her not to be that girl, and she's like, I have to be that girl.
I have to be brave and strong and do what I want, except that's not at all what I did. Oh well. I'm glad she found whatever peace with whatever, but I can't with her. I know I need to dig deep down and find why this pretend 16-year-old, because it's not a real 16-year-old. I want to break the fourth wall there a little bit. All these choices were made by a 20-something-year-old woman. This is not a real person. So the critiques can come a little bit more viciously than attacking a real 16-year-old for their life choices, but still, something rubbed me wrong about Jude the whole book.
Yeah, this time around too. And like I said, I have read this like 4 or 5 times, and every time I flip-flop a little bit. So last time I read it, I just did not care about Noah. I wanted to get through his chapters because it was too artsy. And this time around, I'm like, ugh, dude, it's the worst. Trying to like skip through some of hers. I just don't care about her crazy Bible, or it's called something specific. Sweet Lines Bible, I think, or something.
It's something stupid. I can't remember, but yeah, I don't know. I wonder if that's like when you're like 8 and you watch The Little Mermaid and she says, I'm 16, I'm grown up. And you're like, yeah, Ariel, you tell him. And then you turn like 17 or any age after that and you watch it back and she's like, I'm 16, I'm grown. And you're just like, Ariel, shut up.
Yeah, I definitely had a lot of thoughts about Jude this time around.
So there's this weird guy who's weird and gross and I don't like him, and the longer it's marinated, the more I don't like him. His name's Oscar.
Oh, Oscar.
He's a problem.
They set him up, like the author wants you, because you're Jude, they want you to fall for this guy really hard. He's kind of a bad boy, rides a motorcycle, a little bit aloof, he's an artist, a troubled soul. She doesn't know about his drinking or any of the
former drug addict or all the other stuff, which good for him. I'm proud of him for coming out the other side on that, although it's not very long.
Well, and is he 19 or 20?
He's 19, except he met Noah when he was 16, which a little bit I was worried that they were going to play both ends and he was going to groom both of them. But that doesn't happen. Oscar's just chill with Noah, which is fine, although it's very weird. It's a very weird scene. He's 16 and drunk and posing nude, but they don't know he's 16. It's gross and weird. And Noah's just like, oh my gosh, you're so strong. You're so brave. Da 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 da. No, he's a problem.
I think because Noah also has a little bit of hero worship with him, that's part of the reason that it's like, oh, I mean, because obviously he's a red flag, but he's more of like a pink flag, and they don't want you to see that it's a bad deal, because Jude has another guy that is interested in her and assaults her because she said no or didn't say it loud enough or whatever.
The phrasing was, you can say no if you want to, which is terrible. It shouldn't be say no if you want it to stop. It should be say yes to start. But yeah, she didn't feel like she could say no, and so it happened and was not great and probably stunted her a little mentally, which is fair, but I'm once again talking about it like it's a real person.
So we have both of her quote-unquote love interests are older.
It's a 3-year age gap.
And he's 16. I cannot remember dude's name to save my life.
Michael, Zephyr, Ravens.
Yeah, Michael. But he's 3 years older, and it's gross. And it's like, oh, it's because she's 13. And it's like, no, it's gross when she's 16 and...
It's a 19. Yeah.
Gross, guys.
And that's the thing, because she goes out of her way later in life when she's 16 and Zephyr is 19. No one points that out, because if they pointed it out, it'd be obvious that Oscar is the same age. But she goes out of her way to be like, never do that ever again. I was a child, which totally fair, but to never do it ever again would be like, hey, don't be with a 16-year-old.
Which would be me.
Which would be me. And Oscar, who is a recovering drug addict and alcoholic who's trying to turn his life around, but I think his pen is like, how long is it sober? It's not long.
No, because he still has to go twice a week. Like, he goes to AA and NA.
Although, in the beginning, plenty of people are like, I go every single day, which is fair. Do what you need to, but...
Maybe don't get in a relationship with a child.
Don't get in a relationship, period.
And he also kind of has a girlfriend.
Several. He has several girlfriends that he keeps hooking up with, which is not good.
But I can't stop thinking about you. You are the love of my life, basically.
Except he doesn't know she's 16. And so I was like, fine, fair. Okay, you don't know she's 16 because she says something. And she's like, oh, I'm a sophomore or something, or a junior. And so he's like, oh, you're in college. And no, she is in high school, and she never corrects him. Which, honey, if you need to lie about your age to be with him, you're too young. This is literally illegal for you to be together. So yeah, he doesn't know for a very long time that she's 16. And then as soon as... Okay, let me give him more credit. I actually do like Oscar as a person, but as a love interest for Jude, very much dislike.
Yes. As a friend for Noah, perfect.
As a human being himself, very good. He has had drug issues and alcoholism problems, is trying to make something of his life, going to college a couple of years later, even though he feels a little bad about it because he's like older. He's like 19 starting instead of 18, which, okay, that's a little dramatic. Plenty of people take a gap year, so it's fine.
He felt older.
He felt so much older the way he talked, and then he was 19. So I thought he was like at least like 21, because he was like, oh, I'm starting college so late, and 21's like around the time 21, 22 is when people are graduating, unless you're a normal person, and then it's like 23, 24, it's fine, because colleges are not set up to actually graduate in 4 years with a normal course load.
True.
But so I thought he was older. I thought he was like 21. He was like, oh, I'm starting college so late. But no, he was 19. So gap year. But he does that. And as soon as he finds out she's like, I'm just going to skip most of Jude's part. I don't care about her. But yeah, you get to the end, he's like, hey, you're 16. This is illegal and a terrible idea because you have never dated anyone for real ever. And you should get some life experience. And then if we come back, then this should be a thing.
And she said, no, make out with me right now. We're in love, basically. See, for me, it feels like it was a goodbye kiss and they were going to wait. And for you, you said...
It felt like they were going to continue.
Yeah, he's like, oh, okay, I guess we're going to date now.
And I don't like that the author left it ambiguous. That's my -1 star. Because you could take it either way, and it should be, hey, children reading this book, don't get into a relationship with someone much older than you. That was the lesson we just learned. What is this book saying? I don't know. Jude's all like, it's totally fine that we're together. You know, like someone whose brain hasn't developed yet.
Technically, neither has his. Like 25.
Yeah. And also he's had blood and alcohol problems. And he's like, oh, I'm so bad about impulse control, which... okay, same, but that's never made me make out with a 16-year-old. And that's why I think it's going to continue, because he's like, oh, I can't kiss you because I'm so terrible at impulse control. And she's like, no, we should totally make out right now. Who is sitting there and being like, no, we shouldn't continue? Neither of them. Sus. It just has this whole vibe of, oh, it's about maturity, and she's so mature at 16, so she can totally date this dude that's 19, when that is not the problem. Yes, maturity is a big issue, because being immature leads you to being kind of naive and not realizing what bad things are about to happen, because power dynamic, that is the problem. If an age relationship is supposed to work, the power dynamic needs to be on super equal footing, and a lot of honesty needs to be there, and it's just not there. She knows nothing and believes in true love still believes in the Disney love, and it's just bad. I hate it.
Her problem is she saw the fact that he had known her mom, because obviously Guillermo is the one that the mom is having an affair with, and Guillermo is like Oscar's fake dad, took him in and trying to help him out, and so she took the fact that his mom knew him and thought he would be great for her daughter when she's like
24.
Yeah, I don't want you to meet my daughter till she's 24.
But hearing this...
No, I'm 16 and I've already met him. Must be fate. Must be love.
Well, she takes it as like, mom led me to him.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. She took it as a sign and she's like, yep, full force. Let's just be in a relationship. Let's do this.
Sis, 2 days ago, you believed in a Bible that a bunch of people wrote random things in. I think you need a moment. Needs therapy. Please tell me dad's getting them in therapy. This whole family needs therapy. Because after the mom died, Noah's like, oh, she died driving to you because she wanted to get back together, which you find out is a lie. She was going to divorce him. But, oh, she was going to get back together with you. And then the dad just goes catatonic and neglects his children.
Yeah. It literally took him years to think about, because it didn't make any sense that she was coming back to him. And he's like, but I know that's wrong, but my kid wouldn't lie.
As soon as Noah's like, she wasn't, he immediately is like, oh, that makes sense. Let me be a father again.
Yeah. Took a lot of brain power on that one.
I'm not thinking very highly of you either, Dad. Who plays favorites, very obviously. Because he favorites Jude in Noah's perspective. And then in Jude's perspective, he favors Noah. Real obviously.
He just likes whichever one's athletic, which doesn't make any sense because other than running, that's all he does. You're not a star athlete either. So why do you care?
Yeah, what sport are you doing with your kids? Because he's not surfing anymore.
Yeah, because he did used to surf with Jude, but Noah's afraid of the water.
Well, he was afraid to jump off his shoulder once.
I'm like 5 years old, okay.
It was a young age. It was like 5, 7. It was something young. And he just walks them out with them on his shoulders. And he's just like, jump into the water. And it's kind of deep. And Jude's like, yeah. And jumps in. And Noah's like, And from that point on, the dad never liked Noah. Sorry, claimed he didn't understand him. And so spent no time with him whatsoever and just adored Jude, very obviously, with golden child status.
But also, the dad only starts liking Noah when Noah gets a very weird fake girlfriend.
Yeah, I mean, this is also the guy that believed a 13-year-old so much so for 3 years that he was just catatonic. I don't understand. You have kids, man. You gotta pull it together. Somewhat.
By the end, the dad is a more well-rounded, better character, but you don't like him in Jude's, and you don't like him for most of Noah's.
And then it's the end, and oh, they're better.
Yeah, I guess now that we have our dad, Garcia was gonna probably end up as their stepdad.
Yeah.
Which might have made Jude be better at art. I don't know. She's not good.
Except apparently she just rocks at sculpting with no experience and sucking at pottery. And he's like, you need to get better at pottery before you do marble.
Not gonna lie, my favorite scene is her at the very end whenever she's trying to break them free.
With the chainsaw from the marble, yeah.
Yes, and she slowly, because whenever she's all like crazy Bible thumper, she has everything is hoodie and bagged and tons of clothes, and she slowly is like a cocoon. She's slowly just shedding her layers and becoming who she wants to be, and she's that girl again for herself. In the sculpture, she frees frees the two, because it's her and Noah. She had them together, and she breaks them so that they're separate people, which should have been happened a long time ago. Like, I always thought I wanted twins, but every book I read about twins or movies and stuff, it's like, oh, no, there's some...
just built-in trauma.
And it's like, you can't help it because they were born at the same time, comparing the two, and everybody is different. Even creepy identical twins. I don't know, there's this show on TLC that I keep seeing clips of where they dress the same and date the same type of people. It's gross. And even though this is a gross dynamic, this is a different dynamic.
It's so easy to mess up twins.
But that scene is so beautiful because she's literally freeing them, because the author does this thing where she puts their names together. It's Noah and Jude, like smushed together.
No spaces.
Oh, it's so cute. It definitely is a part of the problem because her parents say it. Everybody that talks to them whenever they're next to each other or stuff like that, it mostly seems to come from her mom. But even Noah thinks of them like that.
Yeah.
She lets them free.
Be their own people. Ugh, it's just all bad. Everybody needs therapy. Just a little grief counseling. Just a little thought. I still need therapy. Oh my goodness. Because you find out Noah stopped doing art because he didn't get into the school. And he was like, oh, I'm terrible. And no, Jude. Oh, okay. Where is her reason? Her reason is dumb and I hate it. Okay, where is it? I don't even know. We're not going in any sort of timeline. It makes no sense. I have to look for keywords now. Oh, no, here it is. So she did all those sand drawings and Noah's always like, oh, you should show mom. She'll love it. Blah, 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 blah. So one day she writes a note. She's like, I'm ready. And she writes a note to mom. Is like, hey, come see X at X time. And mom doesn't show up. And Jude goes home and find out that he threw away the note.
Yeah.
So instead of talking to either of them or trying again or many options, it's so disproportional. She was like, I'm going to throw away this packet. Not even like, I'm not going to mail it. I'm throwing it away. So she throws it away. And then the next day she feels bad and tries to go back, except it's gone. And then she just never tells anyone that she did that. So she just lets Noah go into this deep depression.
Yeah, what she should have done after she did that, because obviously canon event, can't change that. She should have just not gone to the school. Even if she got in, say, oh, I also didn't go. And then they both could have been bad at art and at normal high school.
She just had a lot of options. And the author was like, no, that wouldn't make a book.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it would not make a book. That would be way less interesting.
So it has to happen. There are some times where I'm like, yeah, you want to make your characters relatable and realistic and have these character flaws and these bad moments and whatever. But some authors, I'm just like, and you made a choice. This was the choice. What is Jude's story? What is going on? Noah's story is way important. And it's paired with this nonsense. Because Noah's the one over here finding out that, I mean, he's had inklings, but trying to be honest with himself that he's gay and he likes this neighbor, except for this neighbor seems to like girls. And he's like, oh, I'm so betrayed, because of course the author completely ignores that bi people exist, because heaven forbid, sigh, bi erasure. Anyway, he feels so betrayed that he's hanging out with this girl. So he outs this dude for being gay, even though this dude has already had to move schools because people bullied him so badly for being gay. And so he's convinced his entire world is ending. And this was the only time that I got really mad at Noah, is when he did that. You could have ruined this kid's life. But also, I accept, but he was 13, way more on that one, because he said it, it's out of the bag, it's gone. There's nothing he can do to fix that. Jude had options, and she just picked the worst one.
Kept making worse choices.
I have made a terrible and continual lapse of judgment.
Yeah, he definitely almost ruined Brian's life. Thankfully, we find out later.
He didn't.
He never Googled him, even though he could have found any information. So instead, he posts cute little missed connections.
Get this. 16-year-old boy in 2016, right? We're going to say it's around that time period, right? Instead of going on Snapchat, Instagram. He goes to missingconnections.com and keeps posting the same thing about, oh, I'm looking for basically Brian, and then is upset that Brian doesn't respond. I didn't even know that was a website.
And it's not like it was referenced when they were friends. It wasn't like, oh, haha, look, we're on Misconnections. Like, it's social media for us. We love looking at all these people, which they very easily could have been written in.
And it would have made sense.
Yeah. He's just like, how is anybody going to find this?
Absolutely.
If they aren't looking specifically for this.
Remember social media apps? Like, was Vine still around at this point?
Oh, God, it was so back in the day.
Yeah, it was released in 2013, and I think it died in like 2007. Vine?
Yeah, Vine was around.
Still Instagram or Snapchat? Snapchat was big.
YouTube, Facebook.
Or, like you said, a simple Google search. No, he is unable to Google him in any way, fashion, or form. He just posts on this random website and then is upset that Brian never responds.
He's so funny.
Why?
He's an old soul guy.
Yeah, because he's written by, how old is she?
I don't know, like 30 or something. She's not old.
She's 57 currently.
Oh my gosh, she's really older than I thought she was. Well, because I thought she was like 40 now.
So, 7 years ago. So this is a 16-year-old boy written by a 50-year-old woman. So he's posting on Lost Connections. That actually makes a lot of sense with Jude's personality, too. It's like when men try to write 12-year-old girls and they do a bad job. Or I'm going to shade at a woman author, a 70-year-old trying to write a 20-year-old, and then the 20-year-old complaining about this gosh darn modern technology in 2008 and how she's just now getting a flip phone and a home printer.
Oh.
And their 4-year-old niece has to teach them how to text. Yeah, it's one of those. Having a 50-year-old, that's when it was released. It was probably written when it was in her late 40s, but that makes way too much sense.
Yeah, it's a weird choice for sure.
So there's little things like that, like Lost Connections. Notice how no one has social media.
They have phones.
I don't even know if they're smartphones, because she keeps Googling things on the computer. She never Googles anything on her phone. Oh my gosh, I think we just broke this case wide open.
Bad history as well.
Bad pop culture. This is what's up, fellow youths level. So many things are unlocking in my brain right now. This all makes so much more sense. Okay, anyway. She still handles the story of a 13-year-old finding his sexuality very well. And I think that's why it makes me mad about Jude's part, because it's, once again, really high, good quality material. And every 20 pages, I had to switch back to Jude. Jude had like a 100-page chapter. Her chapters were so long, and his were so short. And I was so frustrated.
His always mentioned some kind of self-portrait or portrait and then would slightly describe what his feelings and emotions are done through art.
Like I said, that makes sense to me. That seems like something an artist would do. If you're doing it all the time, that makes sense. Oh, I don't know what's up with Jude.
Well, and then Noah's chapters also, he finds out about his mom's affair before the dad and before Jude, and he follows the mom and has weird feelings and thinks something's up, and then he also is the one who knows that she's leaving the dad, and he has to be the one to break the news, and instead he panics and lies and is like, no, the family should be together. Think of my mom fondly, like she wanted you, basically, to his dad. It's such a powerful, heartbreaking moment because you know she's about to die because of Jude's chapters, because they're back and forth, and she has this big revelation with her son who, he's not ready to come out of the closet. Him and Brian were fooling around, doing something, gets caught by the mom, and he panics and says, oh, you know, that's just what everybody does, like circle jerks, stuff like that, whatever the thing is. And she's like, I wish I was as brave as you and could just live my life and live my truth, and that's what I want to do, and be with someone that I love and care about. And so it's not his fault that she leaves and ends up dead, but he carries some of that guilt too, which you don't get to fully see because you only see how Jude is processing. And I don't know if Jude knows that he's actually gay.
That's the other thing. So she has friends, and then Noah makes friends with Brian.
He makes one single friend in this book. I mean, and then he does eventually get his fake girlfriend.
But he makes friends with Brian, and then the girls think Brian's cute, so they start hanging out with him. And in Jude's mind, her friends have left her for Noah. You could hang out too. So she basically tries to steal Brian because, oh, this is your one friend. This is your only rubber ducky. Thank you, VeggieTales.
Was that VeggieTales?
That was absolutely VeggieTales. This is his one rubber ducky. This is his one sheep to your bountiful flock. But no, get rid of all of your flock and go for his sheep. Fine. It's cool. I hate her. You literally could have just hung out with them. Why?
Well, it's like she clearly is trying to get him to date him, but I don't know because we see it through Noah. I don't know if she actually knew until Brian gets outed that either one of them were potentially gay. And
she's not a good sister.
No, I feel like he's not subtle. I know he's just quiet and artsy and stuff, but everything that Noah says and does and is so just the little glances with Brian, how do you not see any of this?
Like he almost breaks his sister's head to close the windows so she'll stop bothering them so they can hang out together.
Like that's not a normal friendship reaction.
And benefit of the doubt, the assumption that being heterosexual is the default.
And to be fair, he only gets caught by his mom, and Noah doesn't actually tell anyone until the very end of the novel. His beard girlfriend knows, Melissa. Heather.
Not at all like Melissa.
I was close.
How?
In my head, they sound the same. Not synonyms, but same basic white girl name.
I love it.
She clearly knows or suspects.
No, he tells her.
Okay.
They make out, and Heather has a crush on him, and he feels really bad. So at some point, he tells her, and Heather is his only friend. And Jude lets them be friends because, you know, she's a terrible person, and she knows that. And so she's like, fine, I'll let you have one friend. And then he gets dad, and then she's like, fine, I will find a new father figure. Not really. She isn't going to look for it, but she does get a new father figure and then a boyfriend that is just kills the book for me. That killed most of Jude's plot points because she gets like a chapter where she's like, oh, I suck at art and everybody hates me, and there's a random kid named Fish, for goodness sakes. How serious are we really supposed to be taking this book? Anyway.
Can we also real quick talk about Where Lives Ralph?
Oh yeah, there's a random parrot that just says that constantly. And then it's funny because Oscar's last name's Ralph.
So obviously Jude takes this as another sign that the neighbor's parrot was looking for Ralph this whole time, and then she found him.
Because it takes forever for her to learn his first name, and I don't think she finds out about his last name till near the end of the book.
Yeah, she is so in love. She knows everything about him, guys.
Yeah, she has one chapter of, hey, I suck at art school and my art professor hates me, and I think the second chapter is when she meets Oscar, and then she's just obsessed with him. Even though he's dating other girls, even though being like, oh my gosh, you're so amazing, and wanting to get nude photos of her, but going out on dates with other women. But they don't matter, I swear. Not at all. They don't have what we have, even though I go on dates with them more. And then I lie to you about dating them. Such a catch. This is the one you want to saddle yourself with. This one.
But her mom liked him.
I just wanted to skip all of Jude's chapters, but you can't because you get little bits of Noah in it. But I feel like if I skipped most of the chapters, I would have not missed out on much. Probably would have been happier. If I ever reread this book, it would just be Noah's parts.
I think next time I might try doing all of Noah's and then all of Jude's just because timeline. Because it's cool because it's interwoven. So it's hers and his and hers and his back and forth. So Noah is out investigating. He's learning facts. He's becoming a new person. He's doing all this stuff. And Jude is just slowly making less crappy art and finding a boyfriend.
Yep.
But at the end of it, you realize it all comes together together because Noah comes in and he panics because he sees...
It's Guillermo.
Yeah. And he's like, oh my God, what is happening? What are you doing here? And it's this big, oh crap moment, which it is and it isn't because you've been reading Noah's the whole time. But Jude's whole world is about to explode again because my mom was having this affair. She was leaving the family. She didn't actually want to, whatever. And
can we talk about how bad the mom is at having affairs?
she gets caught by her 13-year-old son.
Twice!
Immediately.
I don't remember why, but for some reason, Noah goes to Guillermo's and then watches him do whatever. He's with students, blah, blah, blah. And then he's leaving, and mom's car is by the curb. And he's like, that's weird. And he goes up, and she's hiding in her car.
But he knows that she's hiding. It's not like, oh, he couldn't see her or whatever.
He sees her immediately.
So weird that she's scrunched down a tiny bit, pretending to look for an earring that clearly she had them on both her ears.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, clearly she was just following me to make sure I was okay. And it was like, honey.
She's not thinking about you.
And there's just other really obvious moments. She gets caught out twice. And then he follows her and is like, okay, straight up, question. And he finds out about it. And then that's the other thing. Noah's going through discovering his sexuality and finding out his mom is having an affair, rocking the entire bedrock of his life. And Jude sucks at art and is obsessed with a boy that she should not be obsessed with. And also her grandma totally told her to do it.
And also had gotten sexually assaulted. She has a lot going on for literally nothing happening in her chapters.
And you find that out so much later. And that happened at 13. And there are so many things where it could have been something more, I feel like, but her chapters were just grating. And it starts off grating because you start with Noah and she just has that whole, but I'm the most important person in your life, right? You would totally be fine with murdering other people as long as I'm alive.
And mostly he is. We do have to kind of talk about the title.
I mean, I guess. I feel like the publisher just made it that title because they were like, well, what else are we going to call this? Because it really doesn't have much to do with anything.
Yeah, the twins are just dividing the world, which gets brought up in both of their chapters.
Once.
Yeah, because Jude is talking to Guillermo about it, and he's like, oh, well, I hope you kept some things. And she's like, I basically only have flowers left. I traded everything slowly and then all at once because she wanted a picture.
Yeah, Noah made a picture of Oscar in like a cubism fashion, and she was like, oh, I'm obsessed with it, so I'm going to give you all of the things. Because it's not just the sun. She gives him like 6 things.
Multiple things, yeah.
And then he's like, cool, fine, we'll trade for imaginary things. That's fine.
He's like, all I want is the sun. She goes back and forth and doesn't want to give it. And she's like, no, I'll give you the sun because he's worth it. This picture's worth it.
Which just sullies the title because I thought that was going to come up again. But nope, it's just about how much she wants to be with Oscar.
Yeah, because in Noah's chapters, they bring it up twice, which still is not a lot. But Jude literally only talks about it one time. And Guillermo's like, oh, you're so sad. Hopefully you kept something good.
Yeah, and because he knows. He's like, you traded that for... Okay.
Which she doesn't know that it's Oscar because like a day later after getting it or pretty quickly after she gets this picture and trades all of her fake stuff, Noah comes in and destroys it because he's mad at her about Brian's stuff.
Yeah, because they went to a party and it was one of those 7 minutes in heaven crap and it was Lady's Choice. She picked Brian specifically and so he was like, cool, I hate you. I can't blame him there. She did it on purpose. It wasn't like, oh, I like Brian. She did it on purpose because he was hanging out with her friends.
Yeah, she just wanted him so she could have him and Noah wouldn't have him.
Terrible sister. Because heaven forbid she not be the center of the universe. I just can't. She makes such terrible decisions and at the end it's written like, oh, we have so much knowledge and whatever. Of course, 16-year-olds. But stuff happened to Noah and Noah went on a journey and Jude just made a bunch of terrible decisions and then is guilty for it but doesn't do anything about it till the very end of the book when she does all the things she should have done a long time ago. So I guess yay for maturity. But yeah, so like we said, the dad's like, oh, cool, that makes sense. And then later Noah's like, hey, I I am gay. And he's like, oh, this makes more sense. He does it again. He's like, yeah, that makes sense. Because up until this point, he's been like, oh, yeah, you're dating Heather or whatever. And he's like, yeah, nope. And so that's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, the dad did not investigate any information he was given. He also taught his children how not to Google things because he could learn a lot if he just asked any follow-up questions, did any kind of light research into his family at all, including his wife.
Let's be honest. Let's be completely honest here. He had to go catatonic because if he didn't go catatonic and he was a responsible parent, we wouldn't have a book.
Yeah.
Well, we'd only have half a book, but that's the half of the book that was good, so...
Like, Jude would not be nearly as messed up if her dad stepped in when her mom died and did any of the things that he probably should have.
He basically abandons her immediately because Noah now likes to watch sports, so everything about Jude is who cares. Bruh, why did you have kids? If you could only care for one person at a time.
Well, it's twins, so it was probably not planned.
Well, he can only care about his wife or one of the children. He has 3 people right there, and he can only do one at a time.
Fair enough.
But yeah, no, he has to be incompetent. Otherwise, how would the YA heroes ever make life choices like dating a 19-year-old and going to a random man's house for hours on end, entire days? She's just gone during this winter break.
Makes sense.
Does not check. No concerns about where she's going for the entire day.
Also, she does not self-harm, but her mom dies. She chops off most of her hair. She only wears baggy clothes. Girl's clearly going through it, and Dad has no follow-up questions. He's not like, that's weird. Your entire personality changed. Both of the twins do, but technically Noah's was in a quote-unquote better way. But Jude is clearly grieving.
It's bad.
And teenage girls, when you start seeing them wear hoodies all day long, check out her arm. See if she's okay. I'm sorry. This dad sucks. He's so bad.
And then at the end, oh, it's fine. We're making up. It's totally fine. Everything's fixed.
I guess we're a family again. Okay, but you also abandoned your children.
The emotional load that they have to endure because their dad is absent.
Oh.
And in the end, this whole time, this art school is so important, blah, blah, blah. Noah gets into CSA. Jude's like, oh, I'll give up my spot. But he ends up being able to get in on his own merits. And then he's like, I don't know if I'm going to do this.
I know.
And then the book ends.
In my head, he went because he deserved to go.
I don't think this book deserved ambiguity. I think it just put in ambiguity to be not Oscar bait, but Oscar bait. Got to be fake deep about it so we can get all those awards. Oh, is it published in 2014? Where in my mind did I get that it was published in 2016? Anyway, the point is, I was a teenager in 2014. No, I would not have gone to Lost Connections before I went to Snapchat.
That's the point of this whole podcast, guys.
Snapchat! Oh, there was a movie rights that happened in 2015 with Warner Bros. That it just did not get picked up.
Dang, just gotta fit right in with that. I don't know.
Fault in Our Stars.
No, I was thinking of the son is also a star, and when she's kept in the house because she's sick. Everything is that same vibe. I don't know. I love YA. I know you hate it.
I don't hate YA. I hate whatever genre this is when they do it badly. Like, Noah's part was good. Jude's just a terrible person.
I would love the little novella or follow-up or something. I just want to know what Noah's up to from the 16-year-old perspective. He tries to jump off cliffs a lot.
Yeah, that's his new thing.
Jude says she sees him fall floating instead of like plummeting because she's like, oh, obviously mom's helping him stay afloat. And he's like, yeah, I feel mom when I jump. She's like, okay, Bella from Twilight.
True.
Actually, I think that was a new goon.
Like half and half. That's how I feel about it. That's why you get a 2.5 out of 4. So I am 0.5 ahead of you currently.
I still love it. And in a year and a half, I'm going to read it again.
Just some general thoughts on it. Yes, there's purple prose, but the way that both of the narrators speak in their own way, they're both so unreliable. I don't understand when they're being hyperbolic or when they're being serious. When I first started it, I just felt like Noah was talking in jokes. that I wasn't a part of. It was very jarring because he was hyperbolic about stuff. It was like, oh, he was 50 stories tall or da-da-da-da-da-da. But some of them, when I was first started reading it, trying to figure out, okay, is this real or is this made up in Noah's mind? And it happened in Jude's perspective too, where it was like, is this real or are you just making this up and it's not coming across?
Yeah, somehow Jude is the more reliable narrator.
She's 16, it helps.
But it just because of the way that everything Noah does is so creative and artsy, and some of the stuff he's describing, he sees such vivid colors and feels colors.
Are you sure you don't have synesthesia? But yeah, to go back to something you said, yeah, I am glad I'm not a twin. That is some very heavy toxic codependency issues that aren't really dealt with until Jude's just like, yep, let me chainsaw this marble statue in half. There we go. My attachment issues are fixed.
But they also haven't for about 2 years, because in the beginning of Noah's, they are still kind of friends and together. For 2 years, they basically don't talk to each other. And suddenly she's like, no, I have to set us free. What have you been doing for 2 years that you didn't feel free from your brother who has a completely different life than you and doesn't care and is in his own world?
The attachment style issues. Attaches to the first boy that shows her positive attention.
Oh, immediately. Poor thing.
Another reason it's like, oh, yay, you two are meant to be.
They're in love. Actually, no, they're gross.
Anyway, one question for the author. I really want to know if I'm just reading it wrong or if they're actually getting together or if she took a cop-out and just made it ambiguous because ambiguity is modernist and Oscar bait. Imagine if Zephyr at 16 and 13, because she was thinking romantic thoughts about Zephyr at the time, not her fault, she's 13, but imagine if Zephyr tried to give her that same speech of, oh, we have to wait until we're older. She'd do the same thing, I feel like. I don't feel like anything has matured at that point, because she'd be like, no, the age gap's fine. I want answers that I will probably never get.
So there's a thing in here, it's maybe mythology, I'm not sure exactly, since I'm bad at history also, just like the other. They talk a lot about the twins, like the stars, and then they talk about something called split apart, which I think are supposed to only be romantic, but then it's kind of hinted that her and Noah are split apart because it's people that are one half of their soul, half of their body.
No, it's implied. There's some weirdly incestuous vibes sometimes.
Yeah. I guess I would like to know more about the split apart, because at some point she says she thinks her and Noah are because they are one person and they're Noah and Jude, no space. And then she's like, no, that could never be true because we're different people.
I don't know. In my personal opinion, it just sounds like a quirky way of saying soulmate.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely was. It's like, is that a real thing? I did not Google it like everybody else in this book. Don't know how. I'll write a misconnection, and if I get my answer, I'll let you know. It'll be 3 years from now.
Apparently. All right, rating. I'd give it being outside on a sunny day without sunglasses out of 10. It's beautiful, and for the most part, it's nice, but there's just some glaring issues that you cannot ignore and give you a headache.
I will give it being lost in a museum, but it's so beautiful, and you're having a good time, and you don't even notice that your mom and brother left you out of 10.
The reverse.
That's how Jude should have experienced her life, and instead she gets like all mad and pissy about it, and it's just like,
I mean, I'd be mad.
I mean, I also would be mad, but enjoy the moment. Live in the moment. Enjoy the book. The end.
Would you read it again? I probably wouldn't. I mean, I borrowed the book from you, so it's not even like it's sitting on my shelf, so I'd have to find a copy.
Do the audiobook. It's very cute. The last 2 times I've done this, I've done the audiobook. The other 3 I have physically read.
If we ever reach a situation where you somehow convince me to read it again, I think I'd skip Jude's part, except for the end.
Well, and with the audiobook, it's so easy to skip her. It's labeled Noah and Jude.
Next chapter.
Let's go.
Skip an hour.
Really is, though. Hers are so long.
They're so long, and they say nothing.
I didn't remember hers being as long as they were, but it's only, I think it's 11 chapters, this entire book. That's it.
So long.
Yeah.
You say you're going to read it again, so I'm not even going to ask you.
About a year and a half.
But have you read this book? What do you think of Purple Prose? Do you have any book recommendations for us? Tell us all about it in the comments below. If you like the video, hit like, and if you're enjoying yourself, hit subscribe for more. Thank you for exploring I'll Give You the Sun with us. I'm Sam Reiner.
And I'm Danielle.
And we hope to see you and a friend here next time. Escape With Me Book Club is a Lunar Skulk production. Check us out on TikTok or Instagram to keep up to date with us. Lunar_SKULK.